Hello, Canada, and welcome to another episode of One Soccer today for this Thursday, July the 27th, post-Canada World Cup win edition. Here to break it all down with me are Gareth Wheeler and Oliver Platt. I'm Adam Jenkins. Let's dive right in. It was a very anxious halftime for the Canadian women's national team, its supporters, the media, everyone with a rooting interest in this squad, because a Katie McCabe Olympico had Canada on the back foot, and if not for an own goal, Canada would have gone into the second half trailing. But Bev Priestman with a masterclass triple substitution to restart, to refocus, get everyone on the pitch that she needed on the pitch, and Canada delivered. Adriana Leon continues to score from open play for country at long last. They had their goal, and for the first time for me in this tournament, it looked like Canada was on the front foot and dominating the game, and they would hang on for that 2-1 win, putting control of their World Cup destiny back in their hands. Ollie, there was so much in that match, so many good performances. Sophie Schmidt continues to impress. She's looking like Sophie Schmidt from 2017, 2018, and she has been doing so over the past year or so in the lead up to this tournament. What do you want to pick on here first? Because Canada's feeling pretty good this morning.
Well, I want to pick on you first, Adam, and it's not just you, because I keep hearing this, they got an own goal to get themselves back into the game. They got a strike. It was a great ball into the box. You put a ball like that into the 6-yard box, you are going to make some luck for yourself. So I take issue with that characterization. I thought this was a character win for Canada, and the first half was not easy. But this is the World Cup, and even against teams like Ireland, this is the biggest games of their lives. They're giving it absolutely everything. They've got a few useful players. McCabe in particular was obviously very, very good. And it takes some time to settle these games down and play your way into them. And, you know, it was an error on the goal that they conceded, obviously, which makes it a much more complicated game than it otherwise might have been. But I thought the way Canada responded was pretty good. They got themselves back level by half time. Second half performance was very good. And I have to give a lot of credit to Bev Priestman, because I think those substitutions at halftime, when I saw Julia Grosso coming off, I was like, okay, that's an interesting one after she's just produced the first real moment of quality in the game for Canada. But Sophie Schmidt and Christine Sinclair were perfect for the moment. Experienced players, calm heads in a really high-pressure situation, and two of the players with the most technical quality in the team as well in terms of just improving that final ball and the service into the box. So hats off to Priestman, and I thought this was a big step forward for Canada, one that's going to give them a lot of confidence and positivity going into what is now an absolutely massive game against Australia on Monday.
The Grosso and Juve supporters had the pitchforks sharpened. They were just waiting to charge Perth, but luckily they didn't need to. Gareth, what did you make of the game?
Well, they were wrong, and Ollie was wrong as well. So get used to it. I mean, Oliver Platt's used to it by now. So look, they don't ask how, they ask how many. They needed to win. They needed a statement second half, and they came away with one. Much better overall in the balance. I think that Ireland was a better team than Nigeria, but because Nigeria now sits in pole position to go and advance from the group, I'm not so sure that's going to end up happening. But I thought it was a better game overall under difficult circumstances. The weather was miserable. The conditions didn't play in Canada's favor. Buchanan wasn't at full strength. She could only go 45 minutes battling illness. And most critically for Canada, Jessie Fleming was back on the field. Mm-hmm. This team without Jessie Fleming just isn't itself. She's the one player that wants the ball at her feet, is the ultimate facilitator. She never stops moving. She never stops bringing her teammates into the play. I thought she played a big role. It took her about 45 minutes to kind of get into the game in the second half. For me, she was the one that was absolutely pulling the strings in this Canada team. And for all the criticism and the pointedness by many people suggesting that Bev Priestman got her attacking three all wrong, need to make this change, and this change. Well, look who scored. Adriana Leon again, the most reliable striker, provider of goals for this Canadian team. Hands down, she scored 10 under Bev Priestman. No one else has come close. Number 2, I believe, is Jessie Fleming, who plays in a deeper lying position. But Leon is automatic. It was a great touch on the goal. Good read, getting in behind the back line. And Bev's going to lean on her experienced players and players that she trusts, and Leon is certainly one of them. So does it make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside that it's just clicked for this Canada team? No, not quite, as Ireland are the lowest ranked European squad in this competition. There's some bigger fish that they're going to play potentially down the road, but I do think it's a step in the right direction, and it was much better game 2 than game 1 for Canada.
And leading up into that final group stage match against the Australians, something that Canada will need to sort out and at least be better with by quite some margin is how they're starting games still. Eliminate mistakes, play confident, and hope that you're not waiting until the second half to make the tactical changes, to make the personnel swap, because Australia is going to be heavily motivated in front of their hometown supporters. And listen, it's going to be a match where there's going to be probably close to, if not a sold out performance. And for Canada, nothing is decided yet. That's what we'll talk about momentarily. But first, let's hear from Bev Priestman speaking after the game, her thoughts on the win.
Bev, Canada 2, Ireland 1, your initial reaction to this match?
Over the moon to get the 3 points. I think, we fought for it and we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I think the character of the group shone through. It was a difficult first half. I thought we played within ourselves, and it was a little bit like a home crowd here. There was a lot of Irish fans, which just sets us up nicely for this next game we've got ahead of us. But the character and the quality of the subs that come in and did their job, and I think everybody did their job, and we won when it mattered.
Speaking of that quality, another excellent goal from Dree, another huge contribution to the score sheet. Just tell me about her impact on this match.
Yeah, I think that's what you get with Dree. In that moment, she delivers. And I think, I actually said to her before the game, this feels a bit like the Australia series in terms of a big crowd. And, she had a big smile on her face and knew that means go and get a goal. And so she delivered again, as she usually does. But I think effort from everybody. I think Jordan Heitmer worked her absolute socks off right till the very end. Sinclair, Sophie Schmidt, Shalina, big subs at half time. I thought they all came in and did their job. And I think the important thing for me is I've got 23 players that helped us get this result today. Whether they all got on or not, this team is together, and it means we've got some legs ready to go into the next game.
As you've said, it's a huge team effort. Now we face the hosts. Just tell me how you're feeling heading into that final group stage match.
Yeah, it'll be a massive game. I mean, this is the arena that we want to be in. We all want to be pushed to our max. And I think, in many ways, this game today could have been a banana skin game. And I'm just thrilled to get the 3 points. We won when it mattered, and we move on now, and we climb and we learn maybe from that opening half where I think the occasion got to us. And we keep climbing and we keep building.
Bev Priestman rightfully feeling confident and happy after the game. If there's one thing that I will add that rubs me the wrong way, and it's not just Bev Priestman, John Hurden's doing the same thing. Canada needs to stop saying it felt like an away game. Ireland is not closer to Australia than Canada is. You can applaud the supporters for making the run, but the Guatemala Gold Cup, they're not away games. They're very much not away games, but you can still say that there was good support for the others. Just keep hearing them. Not away. Give me a moment.
You okay there, Jenkins?
No,
okay
I'm
there,
really
buddy?
not. It's a trigger for me.
There were a lot of Irish fans, to be fair.
Yeah, there were.
Hey, it's a big deal for them. It's their first World Cup. It's unfortunate that they have now been officially eliminated. They're the only team in the group who does not have a shot. It's unfortunate.
If you're Canada, you want them out. Get out.
As an objective journalist, Gareth, who wants to see good stories and more of Katie McCabe, I am highly disappointed that I just like teams having something to play for going into the final game. That's what I'm trying to get to. And the reason that Ireland doesn't is because the group table looks as such. Canada and Nigeria have identical records with goal differential, all of that. Australia now, because they lost by 3-2 this morning, means we are in for straight chaos in the final match day, with all 4 teams kicking off at 6 a.m. Eastern time. If Australia wins, Canada is done. Point blank. If Nigeria gets anything from their game against Ireland, it's going to be an interesting question. Are they going to play for the pride? They're a very proud nation. They're a very proud team. They're going to go out and try and get something. Nigeria, can they just sit back, hunker down, and get a draw? That would be enough to see them advance. So many questions going into that final group stage match for both of the clubs. So with that said, Gareth, how do you think Canada needs to approach this final match. Bev just spoke about playing against a hometown crowd, and she will be right this time. It will be a hometown crowd for the Australians, but we don't know if Sam Kerr is going to be ready to play. She will be a match time decision like an hour before the game. That's how tight the window is to try and get her into a game.
There'll be a lot of scoreboard watching, potentially jockeying, because the draw could be enough well, the draw is enough to go on in advance from this group. But I think it's imperative that this team plays for the victory, take away any shadow of doubt of going on to win the group. The real reward here is to win the group in this competition, to potentially avoid England in the round of 16. That's what you want. That's the goal. For me, it's quite simple and straightforward. Go on and beat Australia, win this group, and get a better path, at least through the early stages of the knockout round. For me, it's straightforward. I'm not, I don't play for a draw in this one whatsoever.
Ollie?
Who would have thought that, potentially winning this game will not be enough to win the group for Canada, and there still could be a team in front of them. But obviously, you just approach it trying to do what Will said, which is finish first in the group, assume England are going to finish first in theirs. And obviously that will make your pathway more favorable. And they might need that, given that this is essentially a knockout game in itself. And so the path has got even tougher than we probably imagined when we thought this game would have meaning in terms of group positioning, but not maybe in terms of whether or not Canada would still be in the tournament or not. So it's going to be a huge pressure situation. I think with Australia, it could go either way. They are going to be under intense pressure in this game, obviously needing the win in front of their home fans. If they get in front early on, then obviously the support is going to be tremendous for them as well. And that could have a really powerful effect. So it really could swing either way. And Sam Kerr's availability is a massive storyline too. Like, they've missed her badly, clearly. And if they're calling her a game time decision, like, this isn't hockey where you're playing every night and that kind of makes sense to call it a game time decision. If it's a game time decision, she's not fit. And the question is whether or not she can play through it or not, and whether it's worth her trying to play through it because she's that good. So that's a major issue for them. Mary Fowler's got a concussion, I think, now as well, which again depletes their forward line. So they're in a tough spot. And I think Canada will be coming in, obviously, feeling a lot better themselves than the Australians will right now with these last two results.
I think Canada has pressure because they're expected to advance because they were the Olympic champions. It by no compare, you can't compare the pressure that the Aussies are under compared to Canada. The Aussies are under much more because the Matildas just hasn't gone to plan here. You're right. Mary Fowler concussion, Liuk got a concussion, both in training, match day -2, and they missed. Both players could be back, but Sam Kerr's the big miss, and I'm with you. And the Australian press is really having to go at the way that Australia has kind of managed this injury, at least playing mind games. And we see it and we tolerate it all the time here in this country in terms of who's injured, how severe the injury is. People are angry. Sam Kerr's supposed to be the face of this tournament. Can she play? Can she not play? And it's just put really a big target, unnecessarily so, around Australia. I really don't get mind games like this. Like, is she fit? Is she not? I think that the fans, they deserve some clarity on this issue. And it's put Australia in an unenviable place. They were red hot, scorching hot coming into this competition. Then the Kerr injury, dropping this result, a couple injuries also going on in training has really put the focus right on them. So, and I think that actually helps Canada, to be fair. The way that things have transpired here over the last 3-4 days after a disappointing start to the tournament, I think that this bodes well for Canada heading into this game.
How do you get 2 concussions in a training session a day or two before a World Cup game? Like, that's almost like
overinflated
some
footballs
questions in terms of what you're doing in that session if that happens. Like,
and
inexcusable.
And the criticism straight off that Australia game has come with their substitution patterns. Bev Priestman generally gets it right. What's going on with Australia? Like, they're a home nation here, and they're expected to win. And I know the crowd and the quality in this Australian team is better than the other 2 teams that they've faced. It is. Australia are better than Australia. They are better than Nigeria, despite that setback. So we'll see if they can rise to the challenge. But if I'm Canada right here, look, a draw is good enough. You have to play for the win and see what happens. And I'm not so sure that Nigeria goes on and wins this game against Ireland. I think Ireland are going to give them a right go and could actually win this game outright. So plenty to be decided. But Canada, I don't think it's a disaster, the result that happened between Nigeria and Australia. And the task is quite simple and would have been the exact same. Go out and win this final game and avoid England, potentially, or hopefully.
And Canada will be very familiar with what Australia is going through right now, having hosted, of course, the World Cup back in 2015. And you think about Sam Kerr, this is her big moment. This
Yeah,
is for a
supposed to be.
nation. Australia is a sports obsessed nation, and football, for the most part, has been 3, 4, sometimes even 5. And for everything, all the headlines that North American sports have been getting for the push for gender equality, Australia's been going through their own process to get there. And you think the lead up to this competition, Australia, the big sibling to New Zealand next door, Sam Kerr has been the poster child for this tournament. And if they don't win, Sam Kerr won't see the field in her home World Cup. You can see it on her face every time they show her during the anthem or on the bench during the matches. She is feeling it. So if she can play in any capacity, you know that she will. And for Canada as well, you have to remember Sophie Schmidt, whose praises we were just singing, has announced she's retiring after this World Cup from international football. So this could be one of her last games for Canada if they don't get a result. Christine Sinclair, would we ever see her at another World Cup? Can she do it at 44? No one's saying she can't. Probably won't. Like
Big game.
that's the
Big game.
stakes here for the host in Canada to needing a win. It's going to be unbelievable theater. It's going to be unbelievable drama heading into that match. We will have more, of course, on One Soccer today as more results come through. And good night, Australia and New Zealand. They will really sink their teeth into it with Andy Petrillo, Jess Lisi, Riley Foster, and our boy Jordan Wilson.